Welcome to Week in One, the show that helps you catch up with the top news stories and interviews featured on eNCA over the past 7 days. I'm Shridika Pillay. Let's get straight into this week's top stories. The Democratic Alliance's Mpho Phalatse once again ousted as Joburg mayor in a third motion of no confidence. Tensions flare as the DA marches to the ANC headquarters, Luthuli House, in protest against rolling blackouts. And the Soweto body parts case resumes at the High Court in Johannesburg. In a dramatic political turn of events, the Democratic Alliance's Mpho Phalatse has yet again been ousted as Johannesburg mayor. A third motion of no confidence was raised in the council's first sitting for this year.
Well, you have to keep up the faith. You never give up until the end. And yes, it's good that I kept the faith until the very end. It was my wish to continue. It was my wish to see this term through. This has happened. We will elect a new mayor. We will table a candidate. I will put my hand up yet again, and we see how that goes. That's democracy. The only thing I'm grateful for today is that everything was done legally, everything was above board, and it looks like they followed the rules of council and the laws of this country to the T.
A dispute over extortion money and territory are believed to be behind the killing of 3 Gugulethu men. The area has seen a number of mass killings over recent years, with police making little progress in solving them. Residents say they are living in constant fear as no arrests have yet been made. Senior reporter Aisha Ismail reports.
Executed in broad daylight in the presence of local residents. Several bullets pumped into the occupants of this vehicle, which police say had just entered NY6 in Gugulethu on Sunday afternoon. The unknown gunmen fled in another vehicle, but not before making sure their target was dead.
We know that the police is investigating, obviously. 3 people have been killed, young people have been killed. If you look at this footage, you could see that it's some kind of organized shooting. So the rumors out there in the community is a rival gang, particularly these gangs that is looking at extorting businesses in our township of Gugulethu. So there's a possibility that these gangs really are fighting over territory, that I need to get my extortion money or my extortion resources, and this is my territory.
Domingo says it seems criminal syndicates are growing in Gugulethu.
Our community is under siege with these criminal elements and these shootings. Our children, our women, the community of Gugulethu is not safe with these killings.
He says extortion syndicates are affecting businesses which are still suffering from the effects of COVID.
Particularly the Somalian shops, they're being extorted at a daily basis.
Domingo says everyone has a role to play in stopping the violence.
And I want to appeal to the community of Gugulethu, let's stand up for this thing. Let's have a plan. At GDF, I think that in this year, what we must look at is particularly how do we begin to really combat crime. But we can only assist one another once business, government and civil society plays a united role.
Local residents were too scared to talk to us on camera. Aisha Ismail, Cape Town.
The Democratic Alliance says it's confident it will win its legal challenge to have the ANC's cadre deployment policy declared unconstitutional and unlawful. The High Court in Pretoria has reserved judgment after a 2-day hearing into the matter. The DA says the policy facilitates corruption in government and the public sector. eNCA's reporter Pulele Chwiti-Jones has the story.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the DA is ignoring some of the measures that have already been introduced to prevent abuse of the cadre deployment policy. Representing both government and the president, Advocate Adila Hassim says instances of abuse don't make the policy unconstitutional.
Fact that a policy may be abused, this is a policy of government which we're not dealing with here, is not a cause for a declaration of invalidity. So, quite apart from the fact that this policy is not law, the Constitutional Court has held that where a law is abused, it doesn't follow that the law is unconstitutional.
Hassim argues the DA failed to present a convincing case during his testimony yesterday. Also, that the opposition party hasn't been able to prove whether the case is about the policy itself or corruption within government. But the DA insists the policy violates the rule of law and undermines the Constitution.
It does so in a number of ways, including by violating the right to equality, because it favours people who are cadres or loyalists of the ANC above people who are not when they apply for positions in the public service, and in a range of other ways.
Judgment has been reserved. Puleli Chiti-Jones in Pretoria.
Dr. Frini Ginwala has been described as a pioneer of women's rights who dedicated her life to the realization of South Africa's constitutional democracy. The anti-apartheid struggle stalwart and South Africa's first democratic Speaker of Parliament died last week following a stroke. She was the Speaker for 10 years between 1994 and 2004. President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered the eulogy in her honor. eNCA senior reporter Slindelo Masikane has more.
Friends, family, government officials and those who fought alongside Dr. Frini Ginwala against apartheid gathered to celebrate and honor her life. Those who had worked closely with her described her as a formidable force who was instrumental in arranging many significant changes in Parliament.
Fuller appreciation of Frini's wide-ranging contributions to our democracy is something we should do in further engagements, more in-depth work, especially on the first decade after the first elections, when she led us as the founding speaker.
Comrade Frini was endowed with many talents, which led her to serve as a powerful voice and a formidable figure in a generation of leaders and activists who founded and developed our constitutional democracy.
And women today in the country should know this history and appreciate that there are women who fought for us to be where we are today. Comrade Frini is one of those who said we want no less than 30%. We lost the battle. We lost the battle. It's okay. But what was interesting is that following that, all women of the African National Congress at the time were called 30%. Today, we have 50% women.
Delivering the eulogy, President Cyril Ramaphosa hailed Ginwala for serving the people of South Africa selflessly.
She performed her role as Speaker with diligence, with fairness, and with great integrity. She was always mindful that it was her responsibility to serve the people of our country and to do everything within her means to advance their cause.
Leaders in society are being urged to emulate Ginwala's work ethic and serve the people of South Africa with integrity. Slindelo Masikane, Johannesburg.
Coming up after the break, we showcase some of the big interviews our anchors did with key newsmakers this week. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shrutika Pillay. It's been rumoured that certain communities are purchasing electricity from Eskom workers at below the going rate. What's even more bizarre is that it happens to be true. It's been revealed that electricity thieves working for Eskom and City Power have been illegally selling vouchers to the public, and their business is booming. Forensics expert Calvin Rafadi spoke to eNCA anchor Mfundo Mabalane.
We find out that it's something that is well known, that people are actually paying at least 50% for electricity in certain quarters. Talk to us about these ghost machines and how this works, where people are getting these electricity vouchers.
It's a historical issue whereby this so-called CDU machines, credit dispenser unit, known as ghost vending machines, they used to be legal and operating for Eskom, so they recall them during the time when they introduced the internet, because those particular machines, they work on a DOS program, Windows 7. So upon recalling these particular machines, they were stored at one area, one of the Eskom storage in Polokong, in the Vereeniging. So most of those machines, they were stolen, but they were stolen by some of the officials, managerial officials from customer care and even other managers in the storage. Solely because now, immediately after they introduced the online, they now took out a tender for the online vending of selling and purchasing of electricity. So these particular machines, because they work offline, they now are back in the market, and all they have to do with the customer care, some of the senior managers, they just update the tariffs on this particular machine that the machine can function. So the business is booming, and I always say they're running a parallel ESCOM through these particular machines.
And then we wonder why ESCOM is on its knees right now.
Exactly my point, because and the worrying factor is if anytime NESA introduces or updates the tariffs or increases the tariffs, the same has to be done on this particular machine, because some of the senior managers and the managers at ESCOM, they've got what we call a stiffy disk or floppy disk, they call it, some of them, or a managerial, you swipe the card. So you've seen when you go in the likes of ShopRite or Woolworths, or if you make any error about purchasing anything, they call the manager to swipe on
to override,
so they can verify and update. So they do the same to verify, to update this particular machine.
My goodness, it's a whole network. So how would the customers be then spotted or brought? Because we understand that it's done on social media, where they recruit, they tell people that if you want electricity at perhaps discounted rates, you can then come to them, you pay the money, and then you get your voucher.
In 2017, what happened, we found that there was a runner at some of the paying points of SASA, whereby pensioners were complaining that every time we go home, we try to load the particular meter, prepaid meter, it doesn't work. What happened? Little didn't they know that the updating of the credit dispenser unit, the ghost vending machine, was not updated. So the syndicate went back and they updated those particular tariffs, gave back the pensioners, and then they were in full operation. Some of the body corporates as well, some of the complexes and estates, some are not even aware that they are catered from a bulk vouchers from this particular syndicate. So the business is booming. Some are aware, some are not aware, and ESCOM is trying by all means to make awareness.
COSATU wants the president to declare a national disaster regarding the energy crisis. This follows ESCOM board chairperson Paul Makwana saying the power utility was considering permanent rolling blackouts at stages 2 and 3 for the next 2 years. eNCA anchor Sally Badet spoke to COSATU's General Secretary.
What would a state of disaster do to help this crisis?
We want the president to declare this electricity challenges or economic energy crisis a disaster for the president and his cabinet to focus on this matter and find a solution that will be able to avert the economic crisis that we're facing in this country. Already, as you said, in relation to our statement this morning, already there are employers or business who are planning to retrench workers, who are planning there are business who are planning to shut down their companies, and therefore it will not be correct and it will be a serious problem for us without engaging on this matter. As we've said, that's what we need the President of the Republic to focus himself, not to delegate any one of the ministers, himself to lead this crisis and make sure that this matter is resolved.
Both options are pretty awful. One would be this permanent sort of pattern where you hope that you've got some certainty. Otherwise, we take our chances and we might head to stage 6 one day, stage 3 the next. I mean, if out of those two options, is there a better one for you? Or is there a third option that you think is not being considered properly?
The 24 years without electricity or continue to cut for us will not accept, as we said in our statement. And what we are calling, and repeatedly so, is that government must engage and find a way of implementing the social compact that was signed in 2022. One of the issues that we raised in the social compact was to bring all the constituency together, not going to them one by one, bring all the constituency and the affected constituency together and engage on this matter, find a solution that will be able to resolve the situation that we're facing in this country.
As the country grapples with the ongoing energy crisis, more and more homeowners are considering moving to solar energy. eNCA anchor Gareth Edwards spoke to Eddie Mokobodi from Sakisa Energy and Technology Group, who warned against dodgy solar installations.
With so many companies now jumping on the solar panel bandwagon, I can just Google solar panels here and I can get hundreds of options. How do I know who's qualified to do the job?
I think the first thing consumers need to look at is they need to do a desktop due diligence, or like a desktop research of the installer that they plan to consider. So I always encourage consumers to look at the website of the installer, ask them how many projects they've done, and more importantly, are they registered with SAPVIA, which is the South African Photovoltaic Industry Association. And the reason for that is because if they registered with SAPVIA, they've undergone some training, which sort of helps them understand how to not be dodgy and how to run projects within the right regulated spec.
So when, for example, looking at the spec and as you say, doing some more online research, what about, for example, the well-known SAB standards, the SAB stamp of approval, for example, because all of these solar systems, and I must be honest, Eddie, I don't quite know exactly how they get wired into the house. I do know this, they're going to go through your DB board. So I imagine the first thing is to make sure that you're dealing with a qualified electrician, because forget the solar panels ending up in flames, you could actually set your house alight.
That's correct, yes. So the electrician needs to give you a COC, which is a certificate of compliance, once he is complete with the installation. So the first question one should also ask is, will you provide me with a COC? And if the installer says yes, no, maybe, if they seem quite hesitant, then chances are they're not going to give you a COC. The standards also that regulate or that guide the solar space is the SANS 10142, which is the South African national standard. So, but just by asking for the COC and looking at the guy's recent work, you can sort of get a gut feel of whether or not this person is dodgy or not.
We bring you more after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shrindika Pillay. ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe has slammed the Democratic Alliance's march to the ANC offices. Mabe says the party is using the energy crisis to garner political support. His remarks came after thousands of DA members marched to the ANC's headquarters this week to protest the ongoing blackouts. eNCA reporter Pule Lechwiti-Jones was there.
The city of Joburg was draped in blue. The DA had one mission: to march outside the doorstep of ANC's headquarters, Luthuli House. But the idea was met with rage. The ANC Youth League mobilized and was ready to defend its house.
Luthuli House is not going to be receiving any memorandum. So they are wasting their time. We don't have space for that. If they bring their memorandum, it won't even be part of our discussions.
A few minutes later, an altercation between the Youth League and the police broke out. The young men and women in ANC regalia were blocked from a confrontation with the DA supporters, a move that could have led to a tense standoff. Some from the Youth League say the DA marching to Luthuli House was provoking. They deny that the ANC is the reason behind the crippling rolling blackouts.
And when you are going to say this is where contracts are signed and this is where corruption happens, which corruption? Because we have seen across all metropolitan municipalities across the province that are governed by the Democratic Alliance themselves. The city of Tshwane is the worst performing metropolitan municipality. So contracts are done in DA metropolitan municipalities, not Luthuli House.
DA leader John Steenhuisen, however, says their objective has been achieved.
And the airwaves have been full of it. Why are you going to Luthuli House? Why don't you march to Eskom, to Megawatt Park? Why don't you march to NERSA? And the answer is simple. When you have a problem, you go to the root cause of the problem and you address it at the root cause of the problem.
Some DA supporters agree with Steenhuisen and say it was the correct call to march to Lutsuli House.
It's really terrible, and the people don't deserve what's happening to them. They don't deserve to be in this situation, and something's got to be done about it.
Load shedding is a crime.
Why?
Yeah, because we can't live with this crime, because load shedding people, we can't live without electricity.
Meanwhile, the ANC has vowed to hold an energy dialogue in order to address the energy crisis. Bule Litchwiti Jones in Johannesburg.
The case against the 3 white men who attacked 2 black youngsters at a Free State resort on Christmas Day has been postponed. The trio appeared on assault and criminal injury charges, while one is also facing an attempted murder charge. eNCA's Moloko Moloto has the story.
33-year-old Johan Nel, 47-year-old Jan van der Westhuizen and 48-year-old Kobus Klassen made a brief appearance before the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court on assault and criminal injury charges. Klassen, who was seen on a video allegedly trying to drown one of the teenagers in a swimming pool at the Marcel Sport Resort on Christmas Day, faces an additional charge of attempted murder. The incident outraged many, and while tensions appear to have subsided, demonstrations were still held outside court. Professor Brian Nakedi, father of one of the youngsters, says the 2 were given professional counseling.
As a family, we have taken measures to protect them. It cannot be a total ban on their lives. However, they are at the moment trying to take it easy. As you may be aware, there has been a resumption of academic activities, and they are now focusing on what needs to be done at their age.
The state requested a postponement while it acquires video footage. The Free State government says the Marcel Sport Resort is cooperating with the authorities.
The establishment has already given the police access to the record, and I think that was confirmed here. Perhaps as a matter of clarity, the awaiting of the video is not being awaited from the establishment. That was given on the first day. That video is just going the necessary processes within the criminal justice system so that it could be ready to be presented to court. So I think that's what we have been briefed about, and we are quite happy with that program.
Nel and van der Westhuizen are out on warning, while Klassen is out on 20,000 rand bail. The trio is expected back in court on 28th February. Moloko Moloto, Bloemfontein.
Staying in court, the murder trial of Flavio Hlabangwane continued at the High Court in Palm Ridge. Earlier this week, Hlabangwane pleaded guilty to all charges against him, which include murder and defeating the ends of justice. Tsepang Pitse's body parts were found in the fridge in Soweto 2 years ago. eNCA's Mangoba Mkunu has been covering this developing story.
I could be totally. Since 2021.
A broken father, desperate for answers. This was the day Hlabangwane was arrested in 2021 after the gruesome discovery in his fridge. It's a day that changed Pitse's life forever.
This guy, I don't trust, as my sister's son. I don't trust that. So, everything. Next expector because something sister.
But despite Hlabangwane pleading guilty to killing and dismembering Tsepang, her father says he's far from finding closure as a torso has still not been recovered. But following the rejection of his plea bargain, the state will now be pushing for a charge of premeditated murder. Tsepang's father supports the call.
We planned it before. I same time, I am going to kill him. No, we planned it before and then I ate. So, why am I and that's all.
But while Hlabangwane is expected back in court on Thursday, Pitse says he won't be in court as he's still haunted by his daughter's gruesome murder. All he hopes for now is for justice to take its course. Manqoba Mkudu, Pretoria.
And that's a wrap for this week's edition of Week in One. From myself and the team, have a great weekend.